Good morning. My name is Chris Rubich. I am a cardiac nurse at Essentia St. Mary's. I'm one of our bargaining team members, and I'm the first vice president of the Minnesota Nurses Association. Yesterday, nurses at Essentia Twin Ports joined our coworkers across the state and overwhelmingly authorized a strike. Together, we are taking this unprecedented step to stand up for patient safety, for staff retention, and for the future of the nursing profession. We do not make this decision lightly. Nurses want to come to work. We want to be at the bedside. This problem has been ignored. We've worked in the legislature to try and fix this problem. The Minnesota hospital system vehemently worked to defeat that legislation. We proposed changes to our contracts that would recruit and retain staff, which our employers have refused to consider. And so now we are left to take this drastic action. In the coming days, we will continue to negotiate with our hospitals and work to reach an agreement. But we will also be meeting with our coworkers at 14 other facilities from the Twin Ports to the Twin Cities, who also voted yesterday to plan our next steps, because this is an issue that we will continue to insist on finding a solution to. And now to tell you a little more about the situation we're seeing at Essentia St. Mary's, I'd like to introduce my coworker, Keandra Schumacher.
Hello, my name is Keandra Schumacher, and I'm a registered CVIC nurse at Essentia Health Duluth. Yesterday, us nurses showed up to vote to authorize a strike. Why? Because Essentia has told us time and time again to do more with less. We are told it is safe for one nurse to be responsible for 8 patients. Labor and delivery nurses, NICU, and PED nurses are told there's no qualified nurses to support you. You are responsible to deal with your unsafe assignments. ED nurses are told to manage with the large influx of patients and slow movement of patients to the floors. We are left with no support services, CNAs, HUCs, environmental services, and our charge nurses are left to have patients and are able to assist to maintain a safe unit. I want to be very clear, none of these things are safe. We have voted for a strike because Essentia has worn us thin, always wanting more and more, while we are left with less and less. Economic inflation is rising at unprecedented rates, yet Essentia's wage proposal doesn't even meet the rate of inflation. Many companies have moved to providing paid family leave, yet Essentia wants none of that. Instead, they want us to spend less time away from work and more time at work, which means we have less time with our families. In negotiations, Essentia has stalled for months, while nurses continue to take a stand and tell them our experiences and that this is enough. Nurse safety at bedside is an all-time low, and Essentia's inaction is driving nurses away from bedside care. It should be no surprise to those of us that take care of patients that we are demanding for a safe environment to provide patient care. Our patient safety is at risk, our safety is at risk, and it is time for that to change. Now please welcome my friend Andrea Rubish from St. Luke's.
Hello, my name is Andrea Rubish. First and foremost, I'm an oncology hospice nurse at St. Luke's. I am also on our negotiating team. Yesterday was a historical day for the nurses of Minnesota. My coworkers and I at St. Luke's joined the rest of the bargaining units in the state with an overwhelming majority voting yes to strike. We did not take this decision lightly, but the nurses that I work with know nothing will change in an instant, but also nothing will change without action. We came together and we voted because we want to give the care our patients and community deserve. Thank you. I'm going to introduce Emily Niskering from St. Luke's.
Hi, my name is Emily Niskering, and I work as a nurse in labor and delivery and in pediatrics at St. Luke's Hospital. I and my fellow St. Luke's nurses voted yes to strike because we love caring for children and families. And it is devastating to see the way that short staffing has destroyed our ability to provide the world-class care that we are capable of. In fact, there are times when we are not capable of providing the care when it's needed, when it's expected by our community. What do I mean by this? This month alone, I have had to call 5 different women to say, I know that you are supposed to come in and have your labor induced. We do not have enough nurses to safely do that. These women have taken maternity leave, grandparents are in town to take care of the older kids, the hospital bags are packed. And I have to be the one to call them and say, I'm so sorry, we don't have enough nurses. This is unsafe and unacceptable. There have been times when there's been a medical reason for these inductions. The baby's not growing well. They live 2 hours away, and we still are unable to provide the care when it is scheduled, and it's unsafe and it's unacceptable. Not only am I a nurse, but I'm a parent. My family gets care at St. Luke's. We deserve care that we can count on. When your kid breaks a bone, when they need their appendix out, when they have an infection, will the pediatrics inpatient department be open? Oftentimes it's not. The lights are off, the doors are closed because there are not enough nurses. When we respect nurses, when we hire enough nurses, when we make the hospital a place where nurses want to work, we can provide the best care in the world. But we need nurses at the bedside. And like I said, we deserve care that we can count on. And that is why we voted yes.
And now I'm pleased to introduce Jerry Swordstrom, nurse leader at Lakeview Hospital in Two Harbors. Our nurses there, our coworkers there, are also engaged in similar struggles and are here to share what they're doing in Two Harbors.
Thank you. I'm Jerry Swordstrom. I'm the registered nurse at Lakeview Hospital in Two Harbors. We RNs at Two Harbors Lakeview Hospital stand in full solidarity with the nurses of Ascension St. Luke's as one unified team, all working towards the shared goal of addressing the staffing crisis in our area hospitals and making sure that patients are prioritized over profits. We are announcing an informational picket to take place at Lakeview Hospital in Two Harbors this Friday, August 19th from 12 to 6 p.m. Please join us in support while we highlight the desperate need for adequate staffing so we can provide you with the highest level of patient care. Our priority is always the patient. Ensuring their quality of care is nothing less than exceptional. With this informational picket, we want management at Lakeview to both acknowledge the honest, fact-based staffing concerns that we have brought forth repeatedly and agree to collaborate with nursing to help find solutions to retain and recruit nurses. Management at Lakeview has failed to keep up with the steady increase of patient visits and rising acuity over the last several years. From 2018 through 2021, we have seen a 65% increase in acute inpatient stays. During that same period, we saw a 28% increase in ER and urgent care visits and an 87% increase in outpatient services. We have also recently added infusion therapy, a completely new service. There has been minimal RN recruitment to help bridge the demands on nursing to support this kind of institutional growth. This increase, coupled with the habitual inability to quickly transfer critically ill patients to a higher level of specialty care, has contributed to the staffing crisis, leading to nurse burnout and fatigue. For several years, each nurse at Lakeview has worked well over their hired FTE. So far this year, 156 shifts have been mandated for nurses to stay and work or be on call for the hospital. Those cumulative hours have taken priceless time away from our loved ones. By the end of this year, we project an annual deficit of more than 5,000 hours needing to be filled, which equates to a 15% increase in our current staff. We have asked Lakeview administration to ease the strain with retention incentives as these demands on our nursing staff are no longer sustainable. Lakeview management has repeatedly refused to make the necessary investments and changes to improve the working conditions and safety within the hospital. We are on the brink of losing many Lakeview nurses. We need management to acknowledge the reality of the staffing crisis and the detrimental effects it has to patient and staff well-being, instead of retaliating against the nurses and hiding behind false numbers. Lakeview has invested millions of dollars into their new hospital expansion. Now is the time for them to invest in retaining their veteran nurses and recruiting more eager and engaged individuals to the workplace. Safe staffing is vital in providing the best patient care. We want our community to know that maintaining a high standard of care for our patients and their loved ones is our top priority. We are having this informational picket to shed light on the hospital conditions and to fight for the nurses who care for you and your loved ones. Please join us in support from 12 to 6 p.m. on this Friday, August 19th at Lakeview Hospital. Thank you.
So we are here today, the nurses here behind me, the nurses who are working in our hospitals today, bargaining units across the state. We are here with one voice and one message that staffing needs to be addressed now, and that we want hospital management, decision makers, to come to the table and help us solve this problem. And we'd be happy to take any questions.
Questions. Amanda again with WDIO. Well, thank you all first and foremost so much for what you're doing today. Really appreciate it. Tell us a little bit more about this is, like you said, the largest authorization in history. Yesterday was such a historical day. How truly severe is this that you really are at your breaking point? Tell us how severe this situation really is.
So when workers and nurses consider authorizing a strike, we, over the last 3 weeks, have been weighing a number of factors. We've been weighing the care and dedication we have to our patients and our communities. As nurses have said, we and our families also get care at these local facilities. We know that we are a vital part of that care delivery, and we want to be on the job. We know that we do that work so that we can maintain our livelihoods. Yet we weigh all that, look at the situations that we walk into every day at work, and know that the situation is so severe that we are willing to set that aside and say, this action has to be taken. And I don't know how else to make that more clear, that we are ready to take this absolutely unprecedented historic step so that this is addressed.
Thank you.
Mitchell Zimmerman with KBTR 6 and CDS 3. St. Luke's released a statement today that said they've offered a 10% wage increase, and I know that the MNA is looking for a 30% increase. So, is the MNA willing to budge at all when it comes to negotiations with hospital leaders?
Yeah, so I can certainly have someone from St. Luke's also address that, but I would also just like to point out that St. Luke's hasn't mentioned what their staffing proposal is in that issue. And as you've heard from us today, staffing is the major issue that we across the state are really here to address. And it seems as though continuing to talk about wages is a deflection from talking about the real issue on the table. And perhaps if the decision makers of our hospitals showed up willing to discuss staffing, there would be other movement at the table. But if someone else from St. Luke's wants to address it as well.
Hi, my name is Larissa Hubbard. I am a nurse at St. Luke's Hospital in the ICU. I'm also the co-chair for the MNA at St. Luke's. They have offered a 10% wage increase, but that's over 3 years, first of all. They have not wanted to talk about the majority of our proposals that would increase staffing. Other issues that nurses have that would keep them at the bedside, that would keep them at St. Luke's, they haven't even addressed. They haven't been willing to budge on anything that would give the nurses any security or any kind of power or any kind of decision-making ability. And those are what nurses want and they need to make their practice safe and to provide the best care. Thanks.
Any other questions?
So in terms of this, how will the hospital continue? You mentioned, y'all kind of briefly touched upon it. How will the hospital continue to function as you all are on strike? In addition, how do you feel about the hospital possibly or already bringing in travel nurses to kind of compensate for that?
Certainly. So in our conversations with our other bargaining units across the state who joined us in this vote yesterday, we'll be discussing when and where to give our 10-day notice. That's legally required for us to give 10 days for the hospital to make those preparations. And just as it is now, staffing of the hospitals is the responsibility of management. So we certainly hope that they are making those plans. And in terms of how we feel about travel nurses coming in, we are well aware that our communities, our families, our neighbors continue to need that care, and so we hope that that care continues to be available for them. But as we said before, this problem is so severe that we just can't sit by. We can't accept the status quo. We can't accept our hospitals not responding to our staffing problems, and we have to take this action to address those issues.
When it comes to the 10-day notice, does this vote start that 10 days, or when does that kind of start?
Sure. So this vote yesterday authorizes our bargaining units to give that 10-day notice. We'll be working together in coordination with the rest of the bargaining units across the state to decide when we'll give that notice. Once that notice goes out, the 10-day clock will start. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the nurses and our fellow union siblings who are here today, our elected officials. Throughout this whole process, nurses have taken this very weighty, very difficult decision seriously, and the care and support that we've had from our community, from our patients, from our elected officials, that's really continued to carry us through. So that means a lot. Thank you.